Hi, this is János, it's Real World Audio, and it's time to reflect about amplifiers. And now I will be doing some far reading, looking at my computer screen and trying to read Eduard's comment about on one of my latest videos, which was about my twin darling amplifier. So this is what he commented. It's a nice challenge. Make the best amplifier with the components that you have on hand. Quite a few of my insights and learning have come from that in amplifier making. But there is also an opposite to this as well. Sometimes you do need to hear a direct heated triode, hear a high quality transformer, hear a capacitor-less design, an electrostatic loudspeaker, just to get acquainted with a different category altogether. So I think Eduard has hit a cornerstone here, is that whatever we do or you do, it's really fantastic, and it's really there to improve what you have, or just go beyond where you are, or maybe you don't even want to go beyond, you just enjoy doing it. That's my thing. I just love doing these things, that's why I do it. But and of course everyone loves what they do. I love my babies. I consider my amplifiers, speakers, interconnects, everything that I do my babies. But and of course when you love something, you see it in a rosy light, right? And you think, and you have the subjective impression that probably it's better than anything out there. But to be fair and to stay objective about it, to form an opinion how others might relate to them, and it's not just how others might relate, but how you yourself should relate to your own children, is by comparing it to what's out there. And Eduard gave the best advice here, because we all should be acquainted with what is available, what the technologies are, how they sound, how they push the limits to the edge. And yes, Eduard is totally true there, that you need to hear a good direct heated triode, and not just like for example in a setting that there's a showroom or a friend of yours who have, like, let's say a transistorized setup, and then somehow another friend gives them, or they buy for cheap a DHT power amplifier, and they plop it into that system, which is 100% unsuitable to fit such an amplifier in it, and then you listen to it, whatever. Then if that's the occasion, then you have never heard a direct heated triode amplifier in your life, because that's kind of like I always make these comparison, these analogies, that when you have an athlete, then you should observe that athlete in the native environment. So for example, if you have a weightlifter, then you should observe the weightlifter in a gym, and don't observe the weightlifter on a dance floor, because it will be failing on the dance floor, because you are asking it to do something that it doesn't do. And the same thing for a dancer. If you want to observe a dancer, what a dancer could do, put the dancer on a dance floor and then observe the dance. Don't put the dancer in a scuba gear and plunge him or her under the sea like 100 feet below, because that's not you won't learn how good a dancer he is while diving him like 30 feet or whatever underwater. That's rubbish. And that's what system synergy is about. Is that, so here the difference is not whether a weightlifter or a dancer is better. No, these are just crude analogies to tell you that whatever you do as a human being, you need to do that and observe that. If you observe it in a very different environment, it's not going to tell you about that particular strength that that person has. If you handicap the hell out of them, of course you are not going to know what they know. So same thing is true for audio gear. You really need to listen to the DHT in a system that is optimized for DHT. And that is a night and day difference between listening to a DHT in a system that cannot play it. So that's one more thing that I would like to add also to Eduard's observation, that you also need to be aware when you listen to gear, that where you listen, who is it presenting to you, and do they have the experience to be able to present that sound to you in an environment that is conducive to hearing the positives of that. So I think that's something critical as well. And yes, you need to hear what different topologies do, what like a transformer coupled amplifier does, what a good capacitor does versus like a cheap capacitor, what a good transformer versus a poor transformer, what a DHT versus an IDHT does, what AC heating of the tubes versus DC heating, and what a choke filtered supply versus resistive or regulated supply. These things you also have to be aware what's going on. And then you can, when you go about on your adventures, then you have these guiding posts, these flashing signs in your memory that will help you guide and steer where you are and what direction you are going or where you want to go. So for example, in my journey, so how it happened is that I had the chance to hear like extremely fine DHT specimens very early on in my career as an audiophile, as a music lover, and it really just burned into my mind how it sounds, and it was a really easy comparison after that. And what I wanted to do and to achieve is to achieve that DHT sound with my own means. And in those times, those years when I was a PhD student, I didn't have any means. So what was left to me as an only option was to basically to build a darling amplifier, which was the underground rage at that time in the early 2000s. I know the Darling Rage started a little bit earlier, but it still went on. In year 2002 it was still, and 2004, I built mine in 2004, it was still pretty strong. And I built it and then started tweaking it, modifying it, fine-tuning it, and at that time it was a considerably weaker experience that I had compared to a true DHT. And I'm specifically talking about the Yamamoto with the 45 tubes, which is, I think it's kind of like a gold standard. So I don't really throw out names of equipments, but I like to throw out the Yamamoto's name a lot, because it is an amplifier that should serve, or serves, at least for me and for many audiophiles, as a huge landmark in DHT sound. And the issue is not that can you find something that sounds better or not. Of course you can find, but then you change into a different room, different system, and then you find the tables are reversed, that the Yamamoto there sounds better than that thing that is named as it sounds better than the Yamamoto. So a lot of it is down to system synergy, but provided you put the DHTs in good systems, then the Yamamoto is really a big landmark. And for me, when we listen to them, the Yamamoto really set a new level compared to my Darling amp at that time. However, I was unable to go to DHT land, and actually the two prices, and also when you use AC heating that you use for DHT tubes, there's the issue of the hum and hum balancing, and at that time I didn't feel confident to be able to tackle that problem, and so I just stuck with playing around with my Darling amplifier, and actually I did not regret it. Because of that, as I had the same experience that Eduard had, that when you are forced to use those parts that you have at your own disposal, or maybe you are forced to have something at a lower price range, then you will have revelations. So need creates opportunity, and for me, what happened is that during these years that followed, I actually did not venture to build into DHT land. I just got there playing around with the indirect heated tubes, and not just that I went more towards the DHT road, I also included pentodes driven in triode mode to the mix. And I found out that even when you have a pentode, an indirect heated triode, you can operate it in a way that sounds really close to what a DHT sounds. And how far did I get with that road? So even now, yesterday I was listening to the push-pull amplifiers, the push-pull modified, heavily modified Ampexes, which are indirect heated pentodes, and in triode mode and in push-pull, and the sound we had yesterday, the experience, it went so far beyond just sound alone. It went into that magic land where DHTs take you. So the strength of a direct heated triode is not like, does it give you like 0.7% more accurate response, or does it, like have at least as good bass response as a transistorized amplifier, or any nonsensical remark like that. But what it does, it transforms your experience from listening to noise and listening to something that tires your ear or just annoys you or whatever, or you just think, oh at best, it makes like almost like listening to a mic feed, or having those intellectual remarks that, whatever. But what it does, it touches your heart, it touches your soul. That's what DHT does, and that's what I have with my push-pull pentode amplifier, and it touches the heart and soul so deep that I never ever heard any DHT grab me so deeply as these babies do. And it's really ultimately, it's not a question of DHT versus pentode or push-pull versus single-handed, but really it's about a question of experience and dedication. And it's not like you just go to the store and now, based on János's advice, now I buy a push-pull amplifier and it will, make me cry and weep, and I can toss out my single-handed DHT to the garbage because it's so much better. No, it is all about refinement. So for these push-pull pentode amps to sound the way they do, I spent 6 years optimizing and fine-tuning them. And the way that happened is I do something, I listen to it, is it going the direction I want to? Yes, then I keep it, and then I keep on changing other parameters. If it's not, then I undo it and go do something else. And I think that's where happy audiophile land is. And for me, even at the beginning, oh, there's some cat fighting going on. They're just playing, don't worry. Not a real fight. It's their playtime. It's what I wanted to say. Okay, now I got completely distracted by these cats, by these lions. Actually, they are hidden behind the desk, so even if I would turn the camera there, you can't see them, unfortunately. So anyway, I think it's time to pay a little attention to these lions out there or in there. They were out in the garden until now. So I'm just going to finish my tea. And thank you, Eduard, for this wonderful remark. And I just let me repeat it or reiterate that you really, or not you, well, you and I, everyone, we need to have references. You need to hear what things can do. Because even if you're just sticking around modifying a pentode amplifier, if you don't know what the limits are, you won't notice when you find it, or you won't have the awareness to take it towards that direction. And of course, if you find it, then you find it. But it if you just build a push-pull pentode amplifier, it's never going to sound like a triode from scratch. You have to fine-tune and get your system synergistic to do that. But if you don't have that triode listening experience, you don't know, your brain is not familiar with certain cues that it gets that are part of the sound, how that heart-touching sound is created. If you are not aware of those aspects of sound, then when you try to build your own, you won't succeed, because you don't have the guiding posts to guide your hearing, to guide your brain and thoughts. So that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for your coffees and teas. Have an awesome day. Let me reach out for the camera. Bye bye.